hands up, Anthony? It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, I'm at home doing the show from the home studio because it's a Friday, and the boss is nice enough to let me do this on Fridays. And so we sign on the old video chat, which you can watch. We used to, when I would do the show from home, have a video chat before we had a live stream. Because obviously I want to be able to see Anthony to talk to him. If he needs to give me a hand signal or something, we need to have eyes, and technology allows us to do that. But pulled up the old video chat, and Anthony had his hood up. So I decided that I also am going to do at least part of the show with my hood on, which is very silly looking because my headphones are over my hood. I look like a total moron. You look kind of goofy. Why are we doing this?
So I had my hood on because it was cold in here.
I was afraid of that. It's also, we're still working on the airflow situation in this loft that I now call my home studio. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely a little toasty up here.
Oh,
it just happened, probably because I have my hood on.
Yeah.
But I'm dedicated to the bit.
It is hoodie season. We are in full effect.
It is definitely hoodie season.
But we're trending toward coat season for sure.
We'll talk about the Dolphins and the Commanders, I guess, because that's what we're supposed to do. Do y'all really want to hear about this game? What's at stake at this game? Murder? We'll talk about it. What's your favorite season?
Summer. Easily.
Just straight up, it's hot as you know what out.
It's more so, to be honest, I would probably lean spring, minus the rain, because it's cool. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's just right. Fall is a little breezy, windy. You definitely got to, throw on a hoodie, but the spring is perfect. It is.
Fall and spring in DC are undefeated. The problem is they each last about 4 days. Where you get really a perfect fall day, really a perfect spring day. We got a nice fall this year, and then it got cold. It actually kind of got cold on schedule. It was oh no, it feels like the holidays.
Yeah.
And now it's miserable because I feel like it stayed really warm the last couple of years, but then it's been mad cold into April. And I'm hoping since it got cold early this year that it will warm back up by early March.
Hopefully.
That seems to be a fair trade.
Hopefully, but I don't see it. I think we're going to be cold in April as well.
See, I don't mind hoodie season, but long sleeve shirt and shorts is my favorite weather. When it's that high 50s to mid 60s and you put on a nice long sleeve shirt, but you can still wear shorts, that's the sweet spot.
I don't think I've ever successfully pulled that off, Craig. I don't think I've even attempted to do that. Part of the reason is I have skinny legs, so I don't really like to expose my legs like that. But also, if I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, it's only right that I wear long pants as well. That's how I feel.
That's how you see, but you're missing out on a tremendous opportunity.
Because now it looks like you're dressed for fall at the top and dress for summer at the bottom.
Well, that's the thing is sometimes that's what the weather is. It's kind of in between. Oh. And I think pants and short sleeves are far more common. I love a long sleeve and actually today because I'm wearing a hoodie over top. Yeah. Pretty sure underneath this I couldn't see anything. That was a black hole as I looked inside. There's no light down there. I think I have a short sleeve shirt on. Yeah, I remember what shirt I'm wearing. Yeah, I have a short sleeve shirt and I'm wearing pants, but normally I even walking around my house. I actually love that. A nice comfy long sleeve or a hoodie and then just basketball shorts around the house. A+. No notes.
And I think I get cold really fast, so that's also probably
you do get cold really fast, which always amazes me when we're in the studio and it gets freezing and Anthony's oh yeah, it is cold.
But I'm in here in khakis already though. I'm wearing khakis. I already got my polo.
Khaki day.
Yes.
Khakis and a polo. That is the Anthony Haney uniform.
It is indeed.
It is indeed. Believe it or not, based off the first 7 minutes of this radio show, it's a Football Friday on the Team 980, driven by your local Honda dealer. Experience power, performance, and ruggedness with Honda. See your local Honda dealer. All right, Anthony, the all-important question on a Friday. What's at stake for the Commanders? Is there anything at stake for the Commanders?
So, Craig, and I said this right before our show.
Yeah.
The Commanders still have a chance to make the playoffs. And I know a lot of people don't think we're good enough, but I'm just saying, we still have a chance.
Okay.
And in each of Ron Rivera's first 3 seasons, we've somehow, some way, pulled off a crazy win. Last year, it was the Eagles on Monday Night Football. 2 years ago, it was the Steelers. The year before that, year 1, who did we beat? Was it the Bucks, I think? I don't know. I'm mixing up the years. But improbable wins.
2020 at the Bucks where you beat Brady.
Yeah. Improbable
or 21
wins, to say the
Brady.
least. Yes. So we haven't had one of those wins thus far.
Barely had any wins at all.
That too. So I'm just thinking, is this the week we do it, correct? Because I don't think we have a chance against the 49ers at all. I don't think we have a chance. Oh, we could probably beat the Rams, probably beat the Jets.
I'd say the Rams wouldn't qualify. The Jets wouldn't qualify for like the big upset. Yeah. It's either you beat Dallas if they've got something to play for, or you beat these guys.
Yeah.
Or the 49ers. I think of the 3, Dallas is the most likely, despite what happened last week, because it's a division game and wacky things happen and yada, yada, yada. I think this Miami team is built to smash Washington, if I'm being totally honest, which makes it all the more likely that the dumbest possible outcome will happen. And the thing is, like, if you watch the league, and we do, right? How many weeks do we go 1, 2, 3, Team A, and then Team B comes in and smokes them, and we're like, we didn't even talk about that game because the idea that Team B could have won didn't cross our minds.
Yep.
And so that is definitely this game. It's a little bit of a stinky fish line-wise. I think it's still sitting at 9.5. It was last time that I checked earlier today. And the Dolphins should be favored by 15. Like, they just should. They put up a ton of points. I know they're not as good on the road. They're not as good in cold weather. But, like, schematically, they are built to beat the Commanders to smithereens. So, like, for me, what's at stake this weekend is, like, can you prove that you have a backbone? And to what end? I don't know. Like, again, the season's technically not over, but all but over. Really, most realistically, sorry to say it, the thing that's most at stake this weekend is accidentally winning and screwing up your draft position.
Yep.
And we'll talk about, we always do keys to the game, and we're going to do it through the lens of, like, how did the Commanders win? We'll do that next. But realistically, I think, can you show some improvement defensively with Rivera simplifying things and Del Rio gone? Offensively, there's always something at stake with Sam. Like, can you go toe-to-toe? Like, to me, it's like, can you avoid a turnover fest? Because you're probably going to be pressing a little bit because the game flow might be out of whack for you. The DBs in Miami are sick. Like, Javon Holland's awesome. Xavier Howard
2 days in a row. We might not see Holland.
Okay, so that would be a coup. Game statuses should be out any moment, so I'll actually check that in the break. They might have just dropped. Typically, they drop about this time, so we'll check that in the break. But Howard's fantastic, and then Jalen Ramsey's still very much Jalen Ramsey. Like, what a player that guy is, and he's a ball hawk. And so, if you're Sam, can you generate big plays and not have them be for your team, not the other team? Like, that's what's at stake is the continual growth and development, to use the pet terms of Ron Rivera, of Sam Howell. And is that ultimately going to show itself? Will there be opportunity? Will it be like a throw fest? Like, I don't know. But this feels like a just get it over with and get to the bye week. And then let's see what happens the week after. And, like, okay, let's evaluate how the defense did. Not to be like, oh, if Ron turns it around, is he going to keep his job? But, like, can we evaluate some of these players? Can you get Emmanuel Forbes back, who's not going to play this week, but Rivera said if they were playing next week would be able to go. So he'll certainly be back in 2 weeks, barring some kind of setback in practice. So this week, if they can show some pride, if they can show a backbone, If they can show some competitiveness, that would be great. Anything else above that is a bonus. But please don't win the game because you're on track for a top 5 pick, and that would be way more important for the future of the franchise. That's just my own personal opinion.
And I think it's on Ron as well to, show that he has a backbone. I think last week against Dallas, we had like 4th and 2 on like the first or second drive, and he opted to punt for it. I'm just like,
that was
dude,
bad strategy.
Be aggressive, man. Like,
what's not even being aggressive? It's like don't be wrong.
Don't play for field position against a highly potent off. It doesn't matter because guess what? They drove the field literally
also,
11
know
plays.
Your own personnel. Joey Sly can kick a 60-yard field goal. He's
Exactly.
Joey Sly.
So I think it's also on the coaches too.
No, I agree with that. Well, that's again, yet another reason from a strategy standpoint why he's not going to be here next year.
Yes.
All right, it's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. So if the Commanders are going to somehow pull this off, what will it look like? We'll do that, and we'll probably not have our hoods still on. Next is the Hoffman Show, the Team 980, and always streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. All right, the good news hood update. Anthony and I are no longer wearing our hoods. If you're watching on YouTube, you see that. That was apparently enough to just wreck my hair, Anthony. Now we're a mess up here. What are we doing?
Are you supposed to be getting a haircut soon? Did Rachel say something earlier?
No, the hair's fine. It's just messy at the moment because I had a hood on because I was doing a wacky bit, and this is what I get for doing bits.
Oh, I thought I saw something on Instagram.
Oh no, so this morning we went shopping for her birthday gift. She used to have a really nice camera, and it got lost in a move, and so we went for her birthday, which is on Tuesday. Me and her mom and some other of our family members are all pooled in and are going to get her a very nice camera, which she now has because we went shopping for it this morning. It's one of those things where it's like, I could get you the thing and guess, or, by the way, men, ladies, everybody who's ever going to buy a gift, make sure you get your whoever you're buying the gift for, even if they're going to go shopping for it, get them something to open. So I got a disposable camera. Shout out to my mom for the idea. So she was able to open the disposable camera, and then I was like, this is a proxy gift. We're going to go get you a very nice camera again. And so we went and got the camera, and she was like, I'm going to take so many pictures. And I realized that the picture she took of me, which was with her iPhone, not the nice camera, my hair was a disaster. So really, I guess I'm just having a bad hair day, Anthony, is what I've realized.
It looks a lot better than from earlier.
Yeah, getting it. It was kind of bedheady earlier. Like, can't believe I left the house like that. What am I doing, amateur? Anyway, apropos of none of that, it's a Football Friday driven by your local Honda dealer. Experience power, performance, and ruggedness with Honda. See your local Honda dealer. Adam Amin, Fox Sports, will join us coming up at the top of the hour. Dolphins injury report. We were talking about this in the last segment as we get to our keys to the game here in just a moment. They don't rule anybody out. So Javon Holland, who we were talking about, DNP Wednesday, Thursday, he's questionable for the game after being a limited participant today. You had like Tyreek Hill earlier in the week, DNP limited every day, but he's got no game status. Like they have so many guys that are on the injury list but don't have game status. So A-Chain is Mostert, like all these guys, Tua are technically on the injury report.
They had 17.
But I wasn't going to do the counting, but thank you for doing that. They do have 5 guys who are questionable. You got Teron Armstead, their starting left tackle. He is questionable. Lester Cotton, one of their starting guards, questionable. He's been sick. Holland, Robert Jones, their other guard, one of their other guards, limited, questionable. One of their other tackles is questionable with a back injury. So their O-line is not actually very good. And that's kind of something that most people probably wouldn't guess. But the thing is, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the year with Sam. If you have a mediocre offensive line, and pass protection-wise, right? Like, obviously, they're running the heck out of the ball. Some of that is schematics and speed. But their O-line deserves tremendous credit for that as well. But if you get rid of the ball quickly, you can hide a bad O-line. And if you hold the ball forever, you can expose a mediocre O-line. And that's the Commanders earlier this year. Sam holds the ball forever. He runs into sacks. He doesn't move well within the pocket. And you're giving up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sacks a game. All of a sudden, Sam starts doing that stuff better, and it's still not great. You're giving up 3 to 5 sacks a game, but 3 to 5 is way better than 5 to 10. Meanwhile, Tua doesn't have the world's best O-line. And you hear some of, like, if you watch the in-season Hard Knocks, which the Dolphins are featured in, the first 2 episodes are out now, you hear the criticism of Tua amongst national folks of like, hey, when this dude gets off his first read, it's not good. If you can prevent the first read, then you can cause some havoc for this Miami offense. And the reason is the O-line doesn't hold up. Like, you can get pressure on them because Tua gets rid of the ball on average in 2.3 seconds. 2.3. That's crazy. But what happens when he doesn't? And that's the thing that becomes a truly, within the context of a game, life or death situation for this Commanders defense to me, Anthony, because if you can shut down the first read, get pressure, you can get sacks. if you shut down the first read and you don't get pressure, and now you're in an off-schedule scramble situation, you're now having to chase a bunch of 4-2 guys all over the freaking field. And good luck with that stuff. Good luck chasing Tyreek Hill off schedule. Good luck chasing Jalen Waddle off schedule. It's a bad, bad formula. So as much as any game they've played this season, there is huge pressure to marry the coverage and the rush in a way that, for instance, Dallas did beautifully last week and is what makes their defense special, and that Washington has not done all freaking year.
Yeah, I think also just because Tua's ability, get the ball out really quickly, I think this presents opportunities for our defensive tackles, our ends, get their hands up.
Mm-hmm.
Since we've traded Chase and Montez, I think we've had 1 sack and, like 8 quarterback pressures. So I'm not expecting us to, sack Tua a whole bunch. But if we can get our hands up, get our hands in those passing lanes, deflect some passes, I think that can maybe help our coverage. Because, again, it is going to be tough to, guard a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. And then also with Tua getting the ball out, it's going to be tough to defend. So
yeah,
we gotta play some type of complementary football on the defensive side.
Well, it also goes to, like, how is Ron going to approach this with the DBs and the new, interim assistant that they hired from Michigan State and Christian Garcia, the interim DBs coach. Like, if you jam up the first read, like, are you going to play a little bit more press? Like, are you going to get up in a way that Jack never seemed to have these DBs get? Benjamin St. Juste likes to be physical, likes to use his hands. But when you play off all the time, the second you make contact, it's illegal contact.
Yep.
Like, can't do that. So is jamming Tyreek Hill easy? No, he's so quick. Like, you're gonna punch air a couple times. But can you disrupt the timing of Tyreek, of Jalen Waddle, of the rest of the guys that they got? That becomes the question. And if you do, and Tua has to hold it, can you get a pass rush? And this is an area where I think Ron should be a major upgrade over Del Rio. Del Rio is so bad at just making guys line up. Like, you're the 5 technique, you're the 3 technique, you're the 1 technique, and then you're the other 5. And you guys are going to line up, and you're going to rush. No moving guys around, no creating different angles, no advantageous overloads. Like, they would run some pressures. And I think Jack, ironically, some of his last couple of games were some of his better called games. But again, like, the talent wasn't there at that point because they had traded Chase and Montez, and they just never did any other stuff to try to create better one-on-ones and better matchups and better situations for Allen and Payne. And they just kind of got by in previous years on that talent. And I think Rivera more so believes in, let's slide this guy over to a 4-eye, line him head up on a guard, and create him, and then, like, jam and play him next to a shade, and we're going to jam up one side, and we're going to force one-on-ones. We're going to force a slide away from an end to get him a one-on-one. Like, he's going to create more as much as he can in a week to, like, coach up some of this stuff, because I don't know how much of this is like, hey, in certain situations, I need you guys to do this on your own, versus, hey, we're going to call this. But philosophically, Ron certainly is more believing of that, and hopefully they can get some more matchups up front to generate pressure this week. And then you can also obviously use your linebackers. Like, you can use Davis and Barton as blitzers. You can also bring your Quans, your Cams out of the back. You can blitz Percy. I would imagine you might see some corner pressure as well. Like, there's stuff you can do to create pressure. The problem is, against Miami, every extra guy you bring is one less guy you have to chase in coverage. And so it is imperative to get your timing right. It's imperative to get that stuff right. And if you can create pressure with 4 by not just saying, hey, guys, go win, we got to get pressure with 4, but you actually do something to create the pressure with that 4, with alignment and stunts and stuff like that, then you got a much better chance of containing this offense to a pace that you at least can keep up with your own offense. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, Logan Paulson's take on the game. It is a Take Command Friday here on the Hoffman Show. Then do not miss this at 4:45 before Adam Amin joins us at 5. Josh Harris spoke yesterday at a Sports Business Journal conference. Some very, very interesting comments, including he said one thing that proves he knows more about the NFL than Dan Snyder ever did. That's coming at 4:45 on the Team 980. the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And coming up at 5 o'clock, Adam Amin will join us from Fox Sports, fresh off his production meetings with Ron Rivera, Sam Howell, Eric Bieniemy, etc., out in Ashburn. So Adam will join us and fill us in on what he talked about with the heads of the Commanders and give his take on the game on Sunday. Coming up also in 15 minutes, we got Josh Harris speaking at a sports business conference. Some very interesting comments. But right now, Logan Paulson's thoughts on this Dolphins-Commanders matchup. It's Take Command on a Friday. Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. Logan Paulson there, Craig Hoffman here. We will be at Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor, to preview this game coming up on Sunday. Doors open at 11. Show starts at 10. So whether you are coming to hang out with us in person or you are just listening or watching the radio, Odyssey app, YouTube, make sure that you check us out on Sunday morning. Okay, the offense for Washington. I would love to see them generate some big plays themselves. That has been the thing that has been missing the last couple of weeks. This Miami defense doesn't get talked about a lot because the offense gets talked about ad nauseum. But they've got some really talented guys and have been playing pretty well on that side of the ball as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think, they were kind of okay, and then Jalen Ramsey came back and they were really good. They got a guy that understands that scheme at a high level, and he's playing good football. And then they've got some, like Howard on the other side is a good football player, Holland in the back end at the safety, and they've got guys, all those guys I just mentioned have tremendous ball skills. And one thing about a Vic Fangio defense is they are going to play coverage. They're going to kind of dare you to run the football, and they have guys that understand what they're doing back there really, really well. And they can disguise coverage as well. Their man looks like they're 6. Their 6 looks like they're 3. And they're always going to – the one thing I would say is constant with this group is that they do a really good job of making sure they have numbers in coverage situations. So you got 3 receivers, they're going to have 4 defenders. You got 2 receivers, they're going to have 3, right? They're always going to be a little bit light in run support because of it. But their defensive line's been playing really good. Specifically, Wilkins inside is one of the best interior defensive players in the NFL. And they do a good job of creating pressure with 4. And they do blitz a lot on third down. They bring some exotic stuff and make it challenging. But when I look at, and I think Jalen Phillips being out, number 15 for them, is a big
loss for them last week. Went down in that Black Friday game.
And obviously that's tough for them. I feel bad for Jalen, but obviously that's good for the Commanders because he was a big reason they were able to consistently generate pressure. It's going to be tough, I think, for Sam. This is like one of the tougher defenses, Vic Fangio is the godfather of modern defense, essentially, over the last probably 5 or 6 years. So
right.
He's really good at it, and he's got guys who are really good at it. And it's going to be a challenge for Sam, quite frankly, to make sure he's dialed in.
Every defense has some sort of weakness, though, or a potential exposure area. What is it like when teams attack a Vic Fangio defense successfully? Where are they able to tear it apart?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting because they've done really good jobs against good football teams. They held Kansas City, I think, to 21 points, something like that. Lots of defensive scores. They held Philly, I think, to 24. Like, they do a good job, man. They're really good. And what I'd say in terms of exposure is he's daring you to run the ball. He's daring you to do it. So run the ball, get them out of those complicated coverage structures in the back end, force them to declare what they're showing you, and then pick them apart. I think it's kind of a mistake, at least I would think right now. And again, I haven't watched as much film as EB has, but I would think it's a mistake to try and throwing the football the way that they've done the past couple of weeks. I think you want to slow this game down, possess the football, run the heck out of the ball. And again, we've talked about our beliefs on running the football, converting on first down or third down, is going to be a big part of this game. But I think that's something you really want to see. Efficient running. Don't go crazy throwing the ball out the gate because you need to simplify what they're doing defensively and then try to stay out of third down because they get even more exotic on third down. So this is a very good defense, very disciplined defense, well-coached defense. It's not like the Giants, which is like this crazy, it's challenging in a different way. It's challenging in its nuance. It's challenging in the pictures it presents. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting barometer for Sam, especially after we were talking about kind of all the things we want to see from him. Like, can you read coverages? Can you get through your progressions? And there'll be an opportunity to do this. But just remember, these dudes that I just mentioned, the DBs specifically, are excellent at disguising it and excellent at passing stuff off and excellent at executing it. So,
did you have coaches that when you played a team with a bunch of ball hawks would basically tell you to be, or tell the quarterbacks to be more risk averse, or do you have to let guys play? Because I feel like that's a fine line. When it's a little bit of a, hey, don't think about a pink elephant, type of thing, where if you're like, hey, be really careful, they'll intercept you, you get too cautious and you don't see something that you're supposed to because you're not playing free, you're not reading it out, you're not going through your process with the mental clarity that you typically would. But at the same time, you do need to be extra cautious and maybe think twice about throwing that deep ball because the chances of an interception versus just an incompletion are a little bit higher. But you also don't want, again, miss opportunities. So there's this constant seesaw balance. So against a super aggressive ball hawking type of defense, how did your coaches typically handle that?
So yeah, usually you'd say it depends on who it is, but like they'd probably make reference to a guy that's got a bunch of interceptions and the duration and the type of interceptions that he's had. And when I say duration, like when were they? Were they early in the season? Were they late in the season? Probably go over the type of plays they were on, and then they'll tell you whether they think they're legitimate interceptions or not. And I think that's always something that is really interesting when it comes to that stuff. It's like when the coach says these aren't real, like it's a tip pass or the receiver fell down, like we don't think he's that good. Like Trayvon Diggs, when he was a rookie, he had a couple picks. I think he had 6 picks. I remember Kyle was like, he has 6 picks, but we're going to dice this guy up. And that was his like approach. So like it didn't matter to him. The picks didn't matter at all. He's like, we're going to make him be a rookie. And then there's other guys who are like, oh, like Jalen Ramsey's got 5 picks and, he gave up a touchdown last week, but like we're going to be aware where he's at on the field. And, like quarterback, don't stress about it, but we're going to make sure we kind of have a vision on what he's doing. And we're going to call concepts to make sure we're not putting you in a bad spot, So the quarterback doesn't have to worry about it, but definitely the coaching staff's aware of it if they deem the guy talented enough, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see what they do because I think that there is probably a desire to generate some of those big plays down the field that they haven't had. But at the same time, like you said, just being smart, running the football, keeping – because the other thing, too, is like the game flow situation I feel like is so important because Miami is so explosive. And if they just get out ahead – and it's not like some teams where if they start running the football too early, you can get back into the game. Like if Miami starts running it, like I almost feel like that's game over. I almost rather them try to pass the ball and dink and dunk it and see if you can frustrate them and tackle in space. Although, obviously the problem with Miami is there's no good answers. You're just facing a juggernaut in all phases. And that's why they're one of the best teams in football. And they are extremely balanced in all facets. Like there's not a great area to attack them with your offense. And they are very good running and passing with their offense. And that just makes for a long day unless you're their equal, which is why they've only lost to some of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think the other thing you see in the Bills game and the Eagles game is turnovers. Turnovers hurt them. And it was fumbles when in the Bills game. And, Raheem, I played with him in San Fran, and he is as explosive as you can think of, right? He's one of the most explosive guys in football. He's awesome,
most
dude.
you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And but he does fumble the ball. That's been an issue since I've known him. I played with him when he was a second year in Chicago. I was with him, and that was something they always talked about with him, like protecting the ball. So you can get some there, right? And Tua has been pretty fastidious with the football, but he's also made some kind of bad decisions. Like if you look at the Philly game, the reason they win that game is because Philly gets a late interception in the red zone, and then Jalen Hurts and that Philly offense possess the football and they win the game. So capitalize on those moments. I think they had 2 turnovers against Kansas City or something like that. So that's a huge part of this. And I hate that as analysis because the question is, how do you create those turnovers? You know what I'm saying? And that's where Ron has to earn his paycheck. But I do think when you look at offensively, like there is a roadmap, and I think it's a little bit more simplistic when you really look at it. It's like take away the first read, compress the throwing window, and make them hold the football a little bit. And it seems like that's very common. But in this case, because the O-line is so inconsistent, like you can get some good stuff happening off of that. So I do think there's a path. But like you said, I think this defense has not played very well. They haven't stopped the run well. They haven't defended the pass well. So is that something? They haven't gotten
pressure.
Is that something?
They don't press. So like it's asking them to do a bunch of stuff that they haven't done. The path might be there, but by the way, also you slip up and you try to press and you're on Tyreek Hill and then you miss one tackle on a slant and good night.
That was another thing that really stood out to me is the reliance of these teams on their safeties in these games. You could see the corners like talking and pointing and waving guys over, and it's the communication level was so high. They're so aware of what they're having to do here because they're up pretty tight. They're not pressing all the time, but they're within 5 yards. They're trying to take away that slant. They're trying to take away the 5-yard out, all that kind of stuff. And so they're really relying on those guys in the back end to make them right. And to this kind of general point, Percy has done some good things the last 3 weeks. he's also given up some big plays, right? So can this simplified defense that Ron has been talking about allow these guys to play fast and be in the right position? Big if for sure.
Big if, and they've only had 1 week to install it, so we'll see how it goes. We'll talk about all this and more with Mark Schlereth next here on Take Command. And obviously, if you want to hear the interview with Schlereth, you can check out the Take Command podcast, now available on demand wherever you get your podcasts. That is, of course, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the free Odyssey app, or on YouTube at 1067 The Fan. The Schlereth interview is actually also on my YouTube page at Craig Hoffman. Also, reminder, I would love to know if we made your Spotify or Apple Music Wrapped, like your end-of-year podcast, whether it's a Hoffman Show podcast or Take Command. If you did, share it with us. Just would love to know who our top listeners are, who's checking in with us every day or multiple times a week in terms of Take Command. Share it. We'll throw you a retweet, etc. At Craig Hoffman on Twitter or at Craig_Hoffman on Instagram. When we get back, Josh Harris's comments from the Sports Business Journal event he spoke at yesterday, including why I feel great about him understanding the it of the NFL. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at the top of the hour. I didn't mean to, Anthony, just kind of drop out with the beat there. That was an accident, but we did it.
That's all good, man.
Coming up, I mean, it was a happy accident.
Yeah.
Just kind of drop out and tell you that Adam Amin is coming up at the top of the hour. Right now, though, I want to let you hear a little bit from Josh Harris. He spoke yesterday. Nikki Javala did a tremendous job of transcribing a lot of this. If you want to just read some more of the quotes that we won't have time to get to on her Twitter page, so you go add Nikki Javala for that. But Josh spoke at a Sports Business Journal event yesterday, and he had a couple of different things that he was talking about, and this is the one that I think most caught my attention, where he described what he wants this Washington Commanders franchise to be, and in doing so, said something about his philosophy that proves he understands the NFL in a way that Dan Snyder simply never did.
What we want to do is create a culture in Washington where players around the NFL say, this is where we want to play. We want to play in this place. We want to create a culture in Washington where the best and the brightest executives, business, coaches, front office, everyone, marketing people, they say, we want to be at this place. And so to do that, right, you have to treat people well. You can have high expectations, but people have to say that, we want to be part of this. And so that's why you have to be, I think, measured with what you do. And even though in sports, right, there's pressure, right? There's pressure from the public. But people aren't always thinking about that long game of what you're trying to accomplish. And what we're trying to accomplish is we want to have elite teams that consistently compete for championships. You need a little luck to win championships a lot of times, but if you get a lot of at-bats, you're eventually going to get there. And so to get there, you need all the best people. It's a long journey, but we're gonna get to. There's no shortcuts to the top. There's shortcuts to the middle. You want to be 8-8. I can get you there quickly. Right, 8-8-1. If you want to be great, there's no shortcuts. Right.
That last part is so critically important because it cuts through what I'm going to call the illusion of progress. It is easy in the NFL to go between 6 and 9 wins. It's just not that hard. You sign some solid football players, you get a decent quarterback, and you get a modicum of luck when it comes to health, you can get right around 500 in this league very easily. That is what they've been under Ron Rivera. You have Taylor Heineke, who's borderline competent with a solid group of defensive players, no real stars or no real blue chip superstars. You can be 8-8. You can be in the mix. You can compete week in and week out. And the problem is that it's an illusion that you're close. You're not close. You need something to be elite. It doesn't have to be quarterback, but that's the best thing. The easiest way to be elite in this league, the teams that have been in the mix the last 5 years consistently are wherever Brady was before he retired, the Chiefs, the Bills, who are down this year, but the Bills have been in the mix, the Bengals, and then the exception kind of to that rule is the 49ers. Obviously, the Rams have been in and out when Stafford was healthy. They were in. When he wasn't, they were out. But they had elite players all over the field. And the Niners, they're elite at basically everything but quarterback. Their skill positions are elite. Their scheme is elite. Their defense is elite. And so they compete. For real compete. 10-plus wins a year and a chance to win a playoff game and would not be surprised to be in the Super Bowl compete. The Dolphins now are a team that is hopefully going to be messing around with the AFC title game. They're hoping to. And why? Because they've got elite players. And that's the jig being up for Rivera. And Harris isn't directly saying that. I actually think the first part of Harris's quote is more direct to towards Rivera, saying there's a time when change has to happen, but we want to be an organization where people want to be, and that means conducting yourself a certain way, which is why he hasn't blown everybody out to appease the short-term happiness of fans who will be just as pissed if he screws up the next hire, no matter when he fires Ron. And so because of that, because he's got this long-term view, and because that long-term view is there are no shortcuts to the top, only to 8-8, he won't fall, at least he shouldn't, if he really understands what this looks like. He shouldn't fall for the crap that a lot of coaches and executives can pull over other owners because hey, we're 8-8, we're on the way. We just need to get lucky on an injury. We need to get one more guy. No, you don't. You built a mediocre football team, and it's not that hard. Can you build a winner? And that's the question that Josh Harris is going to ask the next executive. The next executive is going to ask the next coach. The next coach is going to ask the next coordinators, and on down the line throughout the organization. And if the answer is yes, great. Hopefully we'll have a parade or two. And if not, then they'll start over and they will tear it down or build on the pieces that are good, but they won't settle in the middle and confuse that for success. Don't confuse mediocrity for growth. That doesn't mean you might not pass 8-8 on the way to 10-6 or 10-7 or 11-6 because now they play 17 games. But if you live there for more than a year, certainly more than 2, you haven't built something that's growing. You've built a mediocre team. Congrats, you're just like everybody else. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And my good friend Adam Amin, play-by-play for Fox Sports, is on the call this weekend of Commanders and Dolphins. He'll join us next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony and I pick each and every game and try to squeeze in a dose or two of analysis as well. Coming up at 5:30, but 5 o'clock means it's time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Joining us today is my good friend Adam Amin, play-by-play from Fox Sports. He's on the call with Mark Schlereth this weekend for Commanders and Dolphins. Adam, hello, my friend.
Good to talk to you as always, buddy.
Thanks for the time here on the show. You just got done talking theoretically to Ron and EB and Sam and everybody out in Ashburn for your production meetings out there. Let me start even broader than just like what you talked about. How surprised are you that you're in this spot calling a game against obviously the Dolphins, who we expect to be pretty good, and a Commanders team that's not even remotely in it anymore, considering what we thought this team could be and where we were last time we talked about them earlier in the season when they started off 2-0?
Yeah, you and I had this conversation. I was in the same hotel, and we were talking about the kind of buzz around the two franchises in the towns and areas that we reside. And I was talking about the Bears having a very similar buzz that the Commanders had around them. And
unfortunately, they've had similar seasons.
Both teams sitting at 4-8 after all that. So, yeah, I am a little bit surprised, but I guess I'm not, in the sense that, like, that's what you're supposed to have at the start of a season, right? It's supposed to be hope springs eternal week one, and things in this league shift so drastically, so quickly. It's part of the reason we love the sport. It's part of the reason we love this league so much. It's because of the twists and turns that they take. And, you know, trying to put your finger on it is the hard part. Like, what has taken place over the course of, 3 months now, essentially, to the point that we're discussing a team without much chance for the playoffs at this point. They're just hoping to have a strong finish to the season. So what are we talking about? And I think I am very surprised in that sense. I think I was expecting a little bit more, but I think also when you go into a season, you're looking at all the positives, you're leaning into all the positives, and the negatives start to develop over time, and those positives get washed away when the results aren't there. And that's, if nothing else, it's a microcosm of what a bottom line based business does to people and their perception. Like, this is a bottom line business. The results, I was talking with Bieniemy today, and I even said at one point, we were talking about patience with young players, and how there was a blueprint in Kansas City and this and that. And I go, they don't ask how, they ask how many at the end of it. Right. And he was laughing, and in the context that, it was a fun line to deliver. And I think he got the same, he had that same sense. Like, you're just trying to win. You're just trying to win games, whatever method, fashion it takes to get there is, you're just trying to win games. And when you don't do that, that's when you start to parse a lot of the negatives, and rightfully so. That's what you get when you have a big money business.
No doubt. And actually that specific to Bieniemy was a huge part of the conversation on the show yesterday, where there is a lot of, you can call them excuses, call them reasons, call them whatever you want, of why some of the things he's trying to do may not have clicked yet with a young team, but these games count. And like, there is precedent for new coordinators and new coaches going places and implementing things faster and winning, because the development is great over the long term, but these games count. How did he respond to kind of that part of the conversation and the job that he has been trying to do and is continuing to try to do this season?
Well, we talked a lot about blueprint, and that's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear a lot about Kansas City because that's the most recent experience, and frankly, it's the most successful experience. You're obviously going to shadow and mirror the things that, made you most successful at a different location. And I know fans in Washington are tired of it, right? You don't want to hear about the Chiefs because you're not the Chiefs. You want to hear about how this team is going to be better. But when you look at Mike McDaniel and what Miami's doing offensively and the explosive nature of what they've done this season, what's the conversation around? Well, he came from San Francisco. This is a very San Francisco-like scheme. And it's regardless of wins and losses, your past is going to follow you. At least your recent past is going to follow you to determine what kind of perception that fans are going to have of what you're trying to develop. So I get that it's tiresome to hear about Kansas City, but from the big picture perspective of somebody like me who's not exposed to Commanders football every week and doesn't have to talk about it every single day and comes in with the 30,000-foot perspective that comes with this job, I do want to hear about, well, I saw you week one. Now I'm seeing you 12 weeks later. What are you taking from the blueprint? So that conversation took place, and I think, that's not a criticism of Eric, because that's everybody. That's anybody wants to make sure that, they have a blueprint in mind. They have a structure, an infrastructure, a skeletal system in mind that allows you to find some level of success based on what you've seen in the past. And a lot of this is just elements. Talent is everywhere. This is a league of talent. Everybody's talented. There's a reason you're playing in the NFL. It's, can you execute at the level that is required of you, the way that the Kansas Cities of the world in the last several years, the San Franciscos, the Philadelphias, the way that these teams have executed, can you actually recreate that? That's the question right now. So that is an interesting conversation to have with Eric, certainly now compared to what it was, 3 months ago.
And I'll just go ahead and put the first round of drinks on you tomorrow for the phrasing, I don't have to talk about the Commanders every day. I thank you for understanding my burden, Adam.
I will certainly take the first, if not the second round as well for you guys. That's no problem.
Thank you. Adam Amin is with us, Fox Sports play-by-play. He and Mark Schlereth on the call this weekend. So the obvious big story going into this game is this is Rivera's first time calling plays since 2019. It has been a long time for him. 2019, 2018, actually, I think when he started calling them again in the middle of that season. So it's been a long time is the point. You probably have that stat correct because you're a play-by-play man and I have to talk about Commanders football every day. Point is, what was the conversation like with Ron specific to being back involved with the defense and having that level of detail and that level of responsibility as opposed to being an overseer like he has been since he got here?
Yeah, I think, and it was 19. I asked him, I was like, was it 19? And he goes, yeah, that was the last time I had a hold in it. And it was a little bit different then, too, because it was a team of young players, a defense of young players. And that was part of the reason that he had taken over play calling duties, whereas here, it's a lot different. It's a different circumstance where you have to take over in the middle of the year with a veteran team that's been used to having one voice call your maneuvers over the course of the first 3 months of the season. So it's a little bit of a different situation now. There doesn't seem to I can't imagine much of a schematic change for Washington, just kind of based on the conversations. I can't really imagine one. I think if you're going to see anything different, it's going to be Miami based, right? I mean, what does Miami do? They go for big plays. They have the fastest wide receiver duo in the NFL and arguably the fastest player in the league right now in Tyreek Hill. So you're naturally going to play, a little bit further back. You're going to have to play almost like a shell in some capacity because you have to keep things in front of you and you have to be able to tackle. So the calls themselves might be a little bit different, but I don't think that's going to be, coinciding with Ron taking over play calling over Jack Del Rio. I think that has more to do with what offense you're going to see. Think about that too. You're Ron Rivera. You haven't called plays in 4 years, and the first time you do, you have to go up against the team that has put together about as many explosive plays as any other team in the league,
right,
and is as creative of an offense as we have in the NFL right now. And creative, you can use that term however you want to. I think the thing is there's a lot involved. It's very complex in terms of what you see, even though the actual execution of it may not be that complex.
Right, which is it's funny because like you and I don't think have talked about this, but the way you just phrased that is almost exactly what I would say about Del Rio's defense in reverse. Was it was very complex to execute, and it actually wasn't that complex to solve, and that's why the biggest reason why he's no longer here. And one of the words that Ron has used to say this is how it will change is we're going to simplify, we're going to pare it down. I know sometimes in production meetings, you guys get stuff that you're, with the understanding that you'll use it during the broadcast, but maybe not in a radio hit on a Friday because there is a little bit more schematics that they'll give you guys that they don't want Miami to have. But to the extent that you can share and whatever he shared with you What kind of simplification? What did he talk about in terms of paring this defense down and making it easier for his players to play?
Well, it's funny. I've had probably 3 coordinators at various points this year say the same thing, whether it's on offense or defense, and it's typically on defense. But I've had multiple coordinators say similar things about paring things down, and all it means is there's less checks, and it's more about finding areas. And again, that also plays into what the schematic is, playing a little bit more of a shell and a little bit more of a simplified coverage scheme, and trying to be more conscientious of space rather than the players themselves, rather than the opponent, individually, rather than, so for example, like in this game, I would say, like, instead of thinking of it as Tyreek Hill, you just have to think of it as the receiver who is, based on formation, going to occupy a certain space, or his goal is to occupy a certain space. That might be over the top, but more often than not, when we're discussing some of the schematic things, we're talking about space in the middle of the field or at the top of the numbers on a release, and it's got to be exactly 15, and then to this area of the field to where you might have safety help. Like there's a little bit less involvement of pre-snap stuff. I think that has a lot to do with it, and that's been a common theme when I've talked to coordinators. Like, the really complex defenses, the really good defenses around the league have a tendency to have multiple checks and calls. Same way with an offense, right? We're used to talking about this on the offensive side of the ball and less so on defense. But, good offensive teams do oftentimes have plenty of checks. They have confidence in their quarterback. I think Detroit is one of those teams where, 70 to 75% of their plays are probably going to have a can on them, meaning you can the first play and go to the second play. So 75% of the time when Jared Goff is going to the line of scrimmage, he's going with 2 plays. And based on the coverage he sees or based on the front, he's going to either stick with the initial play call, or you'll hear, this is when you watch a TV broadcast and you hear the quarterback go, can, or kill. That's moving on to the second play that they called in the huddle. Oftentimes it's killing to a run play. Oftentimes you're going to the line of scrimmage with a pass in mind based on the protection, and you either kill it to the second coverage or to the second protection scheme, or you kill it to a run play. That's a similar thing in complex defenses where you see the initial front of the offensive line or the formation of the offensive line. You see where the running back and wide receivers are lined up. And based on that, you either stick with the coverage call or the pass rush call or the run blitz call that you had on the first call, or you kill it to the second, or you have your whatever signal word that particular defense uses to get to the second play or second coverage or second pass rush or second run blitz. So I think that's going to be a little bit more pared down is my guess. Part of that is the schematic because of who you're facing in Miami and their explosive nature and trying to keep everything in front. And part of that is Ron, I think, taking over play calling duties and trying to keep things a little bit more simple, focus on space, spatial awareness, and obviously sound tackling.
A few more minutes with Adam Amin, Fox Sports here on the Hoffman Show. Talking to Mike McDaniel compared to talking to every other coach in the league is like what?
We're going to find out tomorrow.
You haven't had him yet.
So it's funny because a lot of teams will meet on Zoom, on Thursdays with the road team, but we've tried to keep it a habit on our crew to meet with at least the coaches on Saturday in person, or at the very least get them on Zoom on Saturday. A, because you get a little bit more, like they just know more by Saturday in terms of personnel, who's in, who's out, but also just because like it's nice to be able to get people in person, and our crew takes a lot of pride in just being able to look somebody in the eye and get a story out of them or get some information out of them. I don't know what to expect. Like, I don't know if it's an act, if it's half an act, and he's half serious. I don't know if he's completely serious. Like, this has like Jim Harbaugh feel to it, but not in a bad way. Like, because Harbaugh kind of has like an act basically that he puts on for TV people, at least based on what I've heard from some of his former players and being in the room with him a couple of times when I used to cover Michigan and cover college football. So I just don't know what to expect when it comes to Mike McDaniel, man. Like, it's funny. Everything I hear is funny. His kind of idiosyncrasies are at the very least entertaining to me. And knowing a little bit and hearing a little bit about his background, it's a really good story, and I'm excited to get a chance to actually kind of dive into his mind a little bit because I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, I mean, there just aren't a lot of Ivy League graduate, super idiosyncratic coaches in the NFL. Nevertheless, head coaches who also wear Gucci or Off-White sneakers every week. Like he's so one of one. Did you watch Hard Knocks this week in preparation for this game? Did that get to count as prep for you?
I've seen plenty of clips by this point, and pretty much all the funny clips that I wanted to see I have run into at various points.
Yeah, there's a lot of material. And last but not least, you mentioned Detroit, and that triggered another thought for me, bigger picture outside of this game for this organization, because you do get the chance to sit down with so many people around the league, the head coaches, the coordinators. Is there anybody in particular that stands out to you as a great head coaching candidate that you've had just a really great conversation with? Obviously, when you said Detroit, like Ben Johnson's the guy that I'm super interested in. He's the top of my list for Washington, assuming they make a move this offseason. But as you sit down with some of the coordinators around the league, who are some of the guys that stand out to you the most?
I mean, I still Ben Johnson's probably at the top of that list for sure. It's a great thought, and there are guys in Seattle that I've always walked away impressed by. I'm not sure if Shane Waldron is necessarily ready for that slot. When you work under Pete Carroll in Seattle, then you're really focused on your side of the ball. It's not much of a CEO role. Whereas you go to Detroit. Dan Campbell's got his hands in the offense. Obviously, been an offensive minded player, and he gives Aaron Glenn a lot of leeway on defense. But I feel like, Ben Johnson it's him and Jared Goff, and I think that's what you're looking for. And I know there are other examples out there. I honestly, and I don't mean this as an insult to anybody, I really haven't run into anybody outside of a Ben Johnson this year that I walked away and said, that guy's got to be a head coach. Like, that guy has to be in a position to run something. Raheem Morris probably, I think, he's had opportunities in the past in Atlanta as an interim, I think, and then before that, I think it was Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
I think he'd be great, a great candidate to get back the Rams defensive coordinator. Certainly, Ben is at the top of that list, probably for a lot of teams. Certainly, Carolina is going to be looking at him because that's where he hails from. But honestly, I haven't really walked away just absolutely blown away by anybody. And that's fine. That doesn't mean that they're not ready for that position or that they wouldn't be capable. I think it's more about there's very few dynamic personalities out there right now because everybody's pretty guarded. Everybody's trying to figure out their way. There's a lot of young coordinators. We have a lot of 40 and under coordinators now in the game. So it's not what we saw 10 or 15 years ago where every coordinator was like Wink Martindale or, Wade Phillips or, we had Dean Pease and, just these Dick LeBeau, just all these like veteran names, mostly on the defensive end, but a lot of veteran names. It's just not the case anymore. A lot of these offensive coordinators are the younger set, some of the Ivy League guys, some of the, analytics guys who have been able to figure out how play calling fits their systems or the systems that they worked in under whoever was their offensive coordinator. I'm not blown away by a whole lot of people. That's why Ben Johnson's going to be as highly sought after as anybody in the league right now.
Yeah, and thankfully for Washington, with the ownership change, this is going to be a hot destination, and hopefully, it just confirms or pushes me farther into Ben Johnson's corner as the guy that I would like to come here. Adam Amin on the call, Fox Sports on Sunday. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, and then I'll come. I promised Schlereth I'd come say hi in the broadcast booth, so you're going to have to see me 2 days in a row. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm really upset about that, but
yeah, I know you're just you just take your time tonight without me, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I appreciate it, pal. Thank you.
See ya. That is Adam Amin with us here on the Hoffman Show again. He and Stink on the call on Sunday. God, he's so good. He's so good at his job. He's so smart, and he's just legitimately one of my favorite people on the planet. So always love spending some time with him, letting y'all enjoy his insight here on the radio. When we get back, speaking, of just my favorite people who I love to let y'all hear the insight from. My man Anthony Haney's on a hot streak.
Don't jinx me, Craig.
Oh,
Don't jinx me, please.
Is
sir.
that fragile? You're
I
scared
don't
of a
know.
little
It
old,
remains-
you're scared of a little old announcer's jinx.
It remains to be seen. Let's see if I can keep it up. That's all I'll say.
Okay. We got a whole weekend slate of games. We're both 1-0 thanks to the Cowboys holding on for dear life last night over the Seahawks. What a game that was.
That 9.5, stinky.
Yep. I mean, congrats to the Seahawks for getting healthy and showing. It just also, though, makes you so mad. You're like, Seahawks, are they that much better offensively than Washington is? Because Washington scored 10, and Seattle scored 35.
But that's also how you scheme up against man defense. Some of the route concepts that they had, the end zone stuff,
Dude,
the red
Waldron's
zone,
really good.
he was dialing some stuff up for Dan Quinn.
Like I am glad that Adam mentioned his name. I don't think for the reasons that Adam mentioned, I'm not sure he's a head coach candidate yet.
Yeah.
But he's going to be. And at the very least, like the problem is they're two different jobs. Like being an OC and being a head coach are different. There's very much a crossover, and you can also build if you're good at the organizational stuff and kind of understanding your own limitations and time management and stuff. You can build an organization where you can keep essentially being the coordinator. This is what Kyle did in San Francisco, especially early. He's given off some pieces as time has gone away, but like he set it up so that, or like when Sean got to LA, right? He hired Wade Phillips because Sean needed to be the offensive coordinator. So he hired Wade Phillips to run the defense and to be a top advisor because he knew that Wade had been a head coach before. He could certainly handle the defensive side of the ball. And some of the stuff that Sean didn't want to have to deal with as a head coach, he could pawn off on Wade or on other people on his staff. Same thing with Kevin in Minnesota. Same thing with Kyle in San Francisco. I'm sure Steichen has set it up this way in Indianapolis. Gannon in Arizona. Like, when you get hired because you're the young, hot coordinator who's great at coordinating, you don't want to give up that because then one of your best resources isn't being used. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that, like a Shane Waldron eventually, if he gets a head coaching job, dude, don't give up the scheme stuff. You're good at that. Make sure that you got that covered, or the scheduling guy do the scheduling so that you can dial up some offense. All right. Anyway, we're going to pick all the games when we get back, and we'll see if Anthony can stay hot. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. I'm, of course, Craig Hoffman. That's why it's called the Hoffman Show. The name's on it, the whole thing. He is super producer Anthony Haney, and we are going to pick NFL games now. Don't forget, this show not only is live on the Team 980 and the free Odyssey app, but is streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. And it is on demand in both of those places, the free Odyssey app, where you can rewind up to 24 hours using our free rewind feature, or on YouTube, which is, also free. All right, Anthony, where are we headed into the week after you have actually had a nice little run here?
So, Craig, you currently hold a 7-game lead over yours truly. You have a record of 109 and 68.
Okay.
And my record is 102 and 75. So you can do that math. 7-game lead for you.
Even I can do that math.
Yes.
All right, 7-game lead going into week 13, which last year was a bad week for you and a good week for me.
Yeah, you went 9-2 last year, and I went 5-6. So I hope to right all of those wrongs and have another good week.
You know what that means, though, Anthony, this year?
What?
Absolutely nothing. They're unrelated in every conceivable possible way.
Okay, just making sure, because I thought you were going to tell me something that I didn't know, but I already knew.
No,
okay.
There's nothing there. By the way, these picks are on a Football Friday on the Team 980, driven by your local Honda dealer. Experience power, performance, and ruggedness with Honda. See your local Honda dealer. Anthony, please cue the music. Yes, indeed. All right, first game on the slate. We'll pick it. We've been talking about it, the analysis, the whole show, so we'll move quickly through it. But Dolphins and Commanders, let's be honest, Anthony, if this was not our game, we would go 1, 2, 3. But any other thoughts on this one before we say a team name?
I
That
already
rhymes
told you,
with Schmolfins.
if this is the game to have an upset, I think this is it. But I don't think it happens this week or this year. I'm going with the Dolphins, baby.
Yeah, Dolphins. You think they cover the 9.5?
The thing is, the game against the Cowboys should have been closer. I think we can cover the 9.5, to be honest. I think we cover.
They can. It's 9.5.
Oh, it's will we?
Like, if you had to bet this game.
If I had to bet,
I
I'm going
bet
with the
Miami.
Dolphins.
Yeah,
yeah.
you can have the points.
Yeah.
You can have 9.5.
Yeah.
All right, we're on the same page there. Colts and Titans. Indy, 1-point favorites on the road. Can Gardner Minshew and company pull off another one? It'd be a decent playoff shape if they can, Ant.
Yeah, I'm thinking they pull it off though, Craig.
No
I know
JT.
no JT, but Zach Moss has been very serviceable in JT's absence. I think we get a heavy dose of Zach Moss. Last week they didn't run it too much, a lot of blitzing. I don't think they'll have the same problem this week against the Titans. Even though Rabel, I don't know, I like him. He's a great defensive mind in my eyes.
He is.
He can cause some problems, but I think I'm confident in my Colts.
So this is the game of the weekend most likely to end first. Without question. These two teams are going to run, and they're going to run some more, and they're going to run some more.
And
this game is going to be over by 3:45.
Yes, sir.
And I think at the end of it, the Colts will have more points. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who can hit a couple of shots. Like, can Minshew hit a couple? And, like, Pittman's playing really well. And then, obviously, like, big game for your boy. Like, hey, Z, go tackle Derrick Henry a lot. Have fun. And Z's a psycho. He loves that.
Yeah,
Psycho and a sicko. And he would
better
take
been
that
the
as a compliment.
last time they faced off.
I remember.
4th and 1. He got the job done.
He did.
I hope he repeats this time.
All right, Chargers and
Hold on,
Patriots.
who you going with?
Indy.
Okay.
At the end of it, the Colts will have more points.
Yes, sir.
Chargers and Patriots. Chargers 5.5-point favorites on the road. Bailey Zappi, I believe, is starting. Not that it really matters. At the end of the day, man, like the Chargers don't beat teams that are good. They've pounded a couple teams that are bad. They're like a poor man's version of the Cowboys in that regard. And that they're 4-7 themselves. Lost a bunch of close games. This one shouldn't be close. Chargers should be able to do some significant damage here, as long as they don't just beat themselves mercilessly.
Yeah, I think Khalil Mack is going to have himself a day. He had 6 sacks in the game. Might go for 7.
Wouldn't that be nuts? Like, hey, how many sacks do you have on the year? 15. He had 13 of them in 2 games.
Yeah.
Kerrigan used to do that all the time. RK would have like 2 games a year where he had 3 sacks, and then he'd be like, oh, he had 11 sacks. I'm like, yeah, 6 of them came in 2 games.
I think for NFL players, just like Madden, like you need stat padding games. You know, you're gonna have weeks where you have tough games where you only get like 1 or 2 tackles, but then you have those teams where like, oh, I'm about to go crazy, I'm about to go get 20 tackles and and have it look good. So I think this is one of those games where the Chargers will be able to pad some stats. Everybody, to be honest.
I mean, that's playing New England, which is crazy. But that's playing New England these days. Lions and Saints, Detroit, 4.5-point favorites on the road in the Dome. I think this actually sets up very well for Detroit. They're a disciplined football team, most of the time anyway. A fairly disciplined team. They are well coached, and they get to play indoors on turf where they thrive. I mean, that's what they have up, obviously, in Detroit. I know they're like NFC North tough Lions, but no, they're an indoor football team. And they get to go play indoors, and I think they are better at playing indoor football than the New Orleans Saints are. Give me Detroit.
The Saints also play indoors, right?
Yeah, but that's the point. They're not as good at it.
Oh, yeah, that too. I'm definitely going with the Lions here, too. The Lions got to bounce back. They had a rough going against the Packers on Thanksgiving.
And they were still in it. Like,
yeah,
they
still had a chance.
Just kept, like, that was one of the weirdest games that we've seen in a long time because they were getting first down after first down. There was like all kinds of good offensive production, and they just could not finish. And
also Dan Campbell's aggressiveness sort of kind of backfired. He left a lot of points out there. Left
field position out there. They were 1 of 5 on 4th down. Like, it's a wacky game. Just play solid football. You'll beat the Saints, who somehow are sitting atop the NFC East with the Falcons at 5-6, who take on the 4-7 Jets. Obviously, Rodgers' practice window open, but he's not playing yet. We'll see if he can get back by Christmas Eve against the Commanders. But Falcons going to MetLife. They're favored by 2. Who you got?
I don't really like this. For some reason, I feel as though the Jets are going to get the job done in MetLife. I think they're going to have a heavy dose of the Russian attack, and their defense is going to be able to withstand, what the Falcons want to do. I don't think Ritter is going to carve them up or anything. I think if they lean on their run game, I think they'll have a chance. I don't really know where I want to go. I think
that's abundantly clear.
Give me the Jets. I can't believe I'm saying this, Craig. Give me the Jets.
I am about to pick the Falcons, and I feel just as awful as you do. That this game stinks, which is something I feel like we say about the Falcons games every week. What's actually pretty stunning is the Jets are one of the least frequent rush teams in the league. I was looking at a bunch of rushing stats. I'm going to pull it back up real quick. But I was looking at a bunch of rushing stats the other day, Commanders-wise, and if you look at rushing attempts on the season, the Jets have actually rushed the ball fewer times than the Commanders. I don't know what it plays out to.
How often have they been on offense, though?
I don't know how it plays out in terms of percentages, because they've played one fewer game. That's the crazy thing, is the entire top 10 of teams with fewest rushing attempts have all played 11 games, except for the third fewest, which is the Commanders, who have played 12 and have still only rushed it 257 times. Oddly enough, the Jets, also like the Commanders, average 4.5 a carry. So it makes no sense, but they average fewer yards per game than the Commanders. They average 93.4 a game.
But it's hard
really,
to run the ball.
Truly bizarre.
When you're trailing all the time.
That is true, and they're not efficient, so there's not a lot of plays to run. I bet that if we looked at passing, actually here, I'll do that real quick. Passing attempts, I bet you they're also probably towards the bottom because they're just terrible offensively. Yeah, they're bottom. They're at 20-something. So they just haven't run a ton of plays. But for a team that feels like they're built around their defense, it's pretty wild that they have not rushed the ball a lot more. Maybe they'd find more success on offense. Anyway, the point is the Jets stink offensively. The Falcons are not very good. The total in this game is 33.5.
Wow.
So Vegas is calling for like a 17-16 game.
This game might end before the Colts and Titans.
No, because that's the thing is the Jets will try to throw it.
Oh,
Old Timmy
dang.
Boyle will try to chuck it, and you're like, no, you hand the ball to Breece Hall. That'll be better for you. I'll take the Falcons. Cardinals and Steelers. Pittsburgh 6-point favorites at home. And Anthony, you've been talking about this the last couple of weeks. Minkah Fitzpatrick with that hamstring. When's he coming back? Sunday. Minkah Fitzpatrick says he's going to play against the Cardinals.
I'm going with the steel curtain. Defense is going to stand up. I mean, Kyler Murray, like him coming back was very exciting, but I don't think his
He
addition
still came back to the Cardinals. It's not like he got to come back to another team.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more so they're still the Cardinals at the end of the day.
Right.
I think the Steelers go out here and get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. See what TJ Watt can do. Probably has a big one on Sunday against his brother's former team, at least his brother's final former team. His brother's like big-time former team is the Texans. They take on the Broncos. What a game this is.
Woo.
Who would have thought? By the way, yards comparison, Kenny Pickett has thrown for 2,000 yards this year on the dot. C.J. Stroud's thrown for 3,266.
He's nasty, man.
He is. So Broncos now 6-5. They're on that 5-game win streak. Texans, they are 3-point favorites at home. High total in this game, by the way, 47.5. So Vegas expecting a shootout. What do we get?
I'm expecting a shootout as well. And we talked about this yesterday. Measuring stick game for the Broncos. Who do I want to lean? I want to lean the Texans.
I think you and I are on the same page.
But I really like what Russ has done as of late. He has been cooking. He has looked like the old Russ. I think I'm going to go with the Broncos here. I love the balance that Sean Payton. I see your face.
The problem is I want to do the same, but then I'm going to be so mad at myself if Houston wins. And sometimes, honestly, Anthony, I pick games when I'm like, I would be more mad at myself if. Are the Broncos really good enough to win 6 straight?
I mean, they're playing like it, though, Craig. The defense is a
that's
little
the
bit
nature of
better.
having won 5 straight.
The defense is a little bit better.
Defense
Russ
is
seems
a
to have
lot
figured.
better.
Exact. I mean, and the thing is, quiet as kept. Russ has played solid all season long. It's more so been the defense. So since the defense has gotten better, they've looked better. So I think I want to go with the Broncos here. I think I'm going with the Broncos, Craig. I'm going with the Broncos.
Houston coming off that tough loss to Jacksonville.
Yep.
They had won 3 straight before that. 4 of 5 with the wackadoodle loss to Carolina in there. You know what? I'm just gonna zig because you're zagging. I'm so torn on this. It's a coin flip, and I'm just gonna take the other side of the coin. And one of us is gonna be right, and the other one,
It's going to be a shootout. We don't know.
the other one will probably be me. So we'll see. Broncos, Texans. And by the way, the winner of that gets to go up into our puncher's chance.
Yes, sir.
Which is really what this game is about. That's all they care about in Houston and Denver is what's happening on that Washington, D.C. show and their NFL tiers on Thursday.
Yeah.
Which I won't even be there for next week. I'm out on Wednesday and Thursday. I just saw the schedule today. You get Doc Walker Wednesday and Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Yo, Doc would be fun to do the tiers with. Doc's going to be
He
like...
hate lists, though, Craig. He hate lists.
That is true.
I'll see if I can, get him to come on over to the side, but he hates lists. Okay. We'll see, though.
Well, it's also a bye week next week, so maybe we'll do them on Friday.
Okay.
Because we're going to need some Friday content.
Yes.
Yeah. Panthers and Buccaneers. First game without Frank Reich. Can the Panthers get the bounce from the fired coach bounce?
No. The short answer is no.
Long answer?
No.
Yeah, that's correct. Tampa by 5. We're both on Tampa.
Only 5?
Tampa's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, but the Panthers stink.
I'm aware.
All right.
They've had trouble protecting Baker, though, so maybe Burns gets a couple sacks. Something
Yeah.
weird happens. I don't know.
We'll
Should
see.
run the ball 1,000 times. I mean, that was the thing is, the end of last year, Carolina was bad, and Steve Wilkes finished them off 6-6. They had a plan. They had an identity, and then they were like, let's go hire Frank Reich. Not that was a terrible hire, but like, yo, when something works, just freaking do it.
Yeah.
Like, what are you looking for? I'm looking for wins. Steve Wilkes won. Do that. Browns and Rams. Stafford back. Thus, the Browns 4-point dogs in LA. That Browns defense all of a sudden does not look nearly as dominant as it did earlier in the year. Garrett's banged up. I'm going to take LA in this one. Like, when they've had Stafford, they've been really good. The problem is keeping him healthy.
Yeah,
so now that we've said that, he'll get injured in this game and freaking lose.
Yeah, it was looking like Myles Garrett won't play. Joe Flacco to start. I don't have the utmost confidence in the Browns right now without Myles anyway. So I think I'm going to lean. I think I'm going to go with the Rams as well. Kyron Williams, the week he had last week, I expect him to, duplicate that performance, to be honest. And when
he's not on my fantasy bench this week, I'll tell you that
I
much.
hope he isn't. When they've had success, he has had monstrous days. And if you give a lot of attention to him, then that's going to open up the Cooper Kupps. That's going to open up the Nakuas. We could see the Rams going on a little run here with Kyron Williams back.
Well, and obviously who's next? Well, I guess not next, but in 2 weeks, who's on the schedule for them?
The Commandos.
Yeah, which I'm super upset about for one reason and one reason only.
Why?
That game's in Los Angeles.
Oh.
That means a 4:05 start, which means it's a late night for your boy.
Yeah, that's terrible.
We got to do the Take Command post-game pod like 9 o'clock at night.
Wow. You'll be going to sleep at 11, 12, 1, 2?
It's a 30-minute podcast. And honestly, if they've lost again and they lose this week, like, what more instant reaction do people want? Welcome to Take Command. It's the Instant Reaction Show. The instant reaction is they're still not good.
Yes.
Logan? All right. We'll see you for the film breakdown on Tuesday. 49ers and Eagles. Game of the week. So we're both on the Rams there, by the way. 49ers and Eagles. This is definitely the game of the week. Let's stop down and talk about it for a hot second, Anthony, because I think it's pretty fascinating. You have this incredibly physical and incredibly skilled team in the 49ers that is definitely going to want revenge after, I don't want to call it fluky as in like the Eagles shouldn't have won, but kind of a wacky NFC title game last year. They get the Devontae Smith call down the sideline. There's like a couple weird things in that game. Kyle doesn't coach the best game.
Purdy got hurt.
And again, not fluky. The Eagles are a worthy NFC champion, but it was a very bizarre game. I think it's safe to say. Meanwhile, since the bye this year, San Francisco's looked incredible. The Eagles have looked beatable all year, yet no one can seem to beat them. They're 10-1 on the year. So no matter how tough a team plays them, they just find a way to win. And that is on display last week when they just find a way to beat the Bills, pulling it out of who knows where, on the verge of losing, force overtime. Jason Kelce has a couple of Jason Kelce, one of the most solid NFL players of the last decade, has a false start in the rain to make it a 59-yard kick for Jake Elliott. And he's fine. We're good. Off they go, and then they get the QB draw in overtime for the win. The Eagles just find ways to win. I think the Niners have enough firepower to make the Eagles actually play their best game. The thing is, the San Francisco 49ers aren't as good on the road. I am so torn here. I can't wait for this game. That's my main takeaway. Well, then I say that, and I won't even be able to watch it because I'll be stuck in the bowels of FedEx Field after that game. I'm going to go San Francisco here. I don't think the Eagles are finishing the season 16-1. They got to lose sometime. This seems like as good of a time as any.
I was hoping you were going to be on the Eagles. I, too, am on the 49ers. But again, just looking at the games, and you said it, they've looked beatable all season, yet no one's been able to get the job done. They barely beat the Cowboys, game of inches. They go out there, beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills in OT. I think it's time. They're due for a loss, Craig. This game against the 49ers, I think the Eagles are due for one. And hopefully, they can this can like ignite something for them heading into the playoffs. But I think they need to lose one more time before they, really start to settle in for the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I think I'm going to go with the 49ers.
they're great. The Eagles are fantastic. They have to be considered as much. I picked the 49ers. I would still take the 49ers out of stubbornness, but like Eagles win the NFC and win the Super Bowl this year, not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Let Jason Kelsey go out in a blaze of glory after his brother broke his heart last year. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, are they 16-1? Are they going to be the first NFL team to go 16-1?
I mean, they got Dallas next week, so they could, win this game, lose to Dallas.
Sure. But like, they feel like a very great 13 and old school 13-3, I guess now 14-3 team with a 17-game schedule. Speaking of the other Kelsey, Chiefs Sunday Night Football at Green Bay, Sunday night in Lambeau. What a treat that is for the NFL. Kansas City finally scored in the second half last week. They seem to figure some things out offensively. They're starting around into form, which is honestly terrifying for the rest of the AFC because their defense has been on point all year. And now their offense is like, oh, this Rashee Rice kid, he's finally figured out how to catch the football.
Nasty.
Kelsey's starting to get open again. The other tight ends are starting to make plays. Pacheco's become a bigger factor for them. And lo and behold, here's Kansas City at 8-3, having not really played that well, now starting to play well. I'll take KC on the road.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs as well. I think the Packers' big problem all season is just consistency. What they did against the Lions, I don't think they'll be able to duplicate against the Chiefs. If they do, maybe the Packers get on a little roll, but we'll see. They got to be consistent, and they have a tall task ahead of them. I don't think they can withstand what the Chiefs are going to bring. So, KC, Sunday Night Football, baby.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to turn Love over a couple times. Although Mahomes got to be careful. Mahomes has nine interceptions this year. It's a high number for him.
Yeah,
21 touchdowns, but 9 interceptions. Bengals and Jags, obviously this game previously scheduled on Monday Night Football to be a great one when Joe Burrow was supposed to be playing in it with Jake Browning at quarterback. 1, 2, 3.
Jags, baby.
All right, so that is the Monday Nighter. Of course, Commanders and Dolphins, 1 o'clock on Sunday. We got 6 players we need to identify if the Commanders are going to have a chance. That's how we're going to put it next, our Pick 6 on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. Wrapping up final half hour of the Hoffman Show here on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we got Maryland basketball, Maryland, Indiana tonight. So Naki and company have you covered there. Obviously, that is going to displace the Wizards, and I am double checking to make sure that where they are playing tonight, because that seems like an important piece of information for all of you. Yes, they are over on 106.7 The Fan. So they are coming up at 6:45. They get, according to the schedule, Anthony, folks listening over on The Fan get an extended Grant and Danny tonight. We get off before they do. Suckers.
Yes, sir.
Take that, you and your 4 hours that you do every day. Yeah, I do 2.5 today. We still, you know what we did, Anthony? Squeeze 3 hours of goodness into this 2.5.
Yes, we did.
Always. Well, at least that's our goal. We're not quite done yet. So Maryland here, Wizards there, coming up at the bottom of the hour, /6:45, Wizards and Magic over on The Fan. Right now, for us on a Friday, it is time to pick 6.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their #1 fan.
All right, pick 6 time. Anthony, you get to go first this week. The pick 6, what we do is we take 6 players we think they'll have the biggest impact for the Commanders on Sunday, hopefully towards a win. If they don't play well, probably towards a loss. And we identify them. So, Ant, you are first up.
Number 1.
Number 1, baby. You already know I got to have my coordinators in there, and I'm going with the defensive coordinator, Ron Rivera. Am I taking the easy way out, Craig? Am I taking the easy way? Because obviously he's going to be on the hot seat, or I guess all eyes are going to be on him,
right?
Because this is his first game.
You are taking the easy way out, but it's a good pick.
I think it's important.
It's very important. Like,
first of all,
if you get a bunch of confusion and all the same nonsense that you've been getting under Jack Del Rio, then you're going to lose the way the Broncos lost to this team. Yep. If you can't get a little bit of pressure, you're going to lose the way the Broncos lost. Like, legit 70-20 is going to be the score. So, yeah, I would say Ron Rivera, pretty freaking important.
Yeah, I'm imagining all eyes on him. And I just want to see, I don't know, something different again. Again, I think recently we've been seeing a lot of man defense, and I don't think, personally, we have the personnel to do that.
Especially
generally,
now with Forbes
out. Exactly, and then especially just not against the Dolphins. So I want to see, how Ron, schemes up, or like what he's imagined and envisioned. And apparently he's given a lot of, freedom to like the players to like come in and, suggest like what they think they should be doing. So it's going to be interesting to see how Ron leads the defense.
Here's the baseline schematic conundrum that the Dolphins put you in. You want to play a lot of shell coverage. You want to play a lot of too high quarters, like stuff that lets you be in up above so they don't beat you deep. The problem is the Dolphins run the mess out of the ball. And so if you play middle field open structures, so cover 2, cover 4, where you have two safeties high, and then either, your other two corners are playing the flats or they're playing high in a quarters look, those two middle safeties, one of them not being rotated down into the box, leaves you a player light in the box. It is a disaster. So how do you combat that? Do you do something funky where you play too high, but you're willing to sacrifice some of the intermediate middle layer of the field and you play some of your Cinco package, which I don't feel like they've played as much recently? I don't know. Like there is a ton of, they played a lot more base recently. Like that feels like a mess against this team. I don't know what you do. I truly don't know. I mean, obviously I don't know. I'm not a defensive coordinator, but like even high level, not having to call it, not having to coach it, like there's not a good answer, because if you play a bunch of single high stuff, you're exposing yourself deep. If you are playing a bunch of too high stuff, you are exposing yourself in the run game. And I would probably still pick that and be like, hey, we're just going to have to tackle well, which will bring me to my guy in a second. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, Rivera's under a ton of pressure this week if you think there's pressure to win this game. There's also not that much pressure to win the game because no one on earth thinks you're going to win it. And I don't think winning it saves a job or makes the playoffs or anything. Honestly, winning it costs you draft position. So I know that's not very exciting, sexy, or ethical in terms of wanting your team to lose. But realistically, that's kind of where we are. I didn't put him there. They did.
Number 2.
Number 2 is Percy Butler. Percy Butler cannot. Percy Butler must keep playing good football. Percy Butler cannot keep giving up a big play or two every single week, because both things are happening. There is a play every single week where he is supposed to be the cap and it wasn't screwed on right. Like the drink gets spilled. But outside of that play, Percy's playing generally pretty good football. He's flying around. He's, his athleticism is on display. He's actually tackling and making plays on the ball pretty well, but then he'll miss one in a hole, and that's a 60-yard touchdown on the run game. Or he plays a corner when it's a post, and Brandon Cooks runs wide open in. And what I'm hoping is that amongst the players who are helped the most by these new instructions for the defensive players from Ron Rivera, these pared down calls, these simplistic things, that Percy Butler is one of the biggest beneficiaries. And if he is, then they have a chance. And if not, then it's going to be 70 to whatever. And that's just the way it is.
Number 3.
Number 3, I think I'm going to go with Sam Howell. And I say Sam Howell because, again, the Dolphins, you and Logan have talked about it all week long. They don't give up a lot of explosive plays. And I think Sam sometimes likes to, hold on to the ball to see if he can, get some of the explosive plays. So my challenge is the same, is just take what they're giving you. I think it's going to be a lot of opportunity for yards after the catch for, our pass catchers. So get the ball in their hands, make these players, come up and tackle, the Terrys, the Jahans, the Curtis Samuels of the world, and go from there. Also utilize your check down. We've seen B-Rob catch the ball exceptionally well. I'm not sure if Antonio Gibson's going to be back, but still you have those running backs at your expense as well. Take what the defense is giving you. Don't always hold on to the ball, because we know what holding on to the ball gets you. It gets you to leading the league in sacks taken.
Yeah, and also getting in bad game situations. So you also lead the league in interceptions.
That too.
Which is not great. Gibson, no injury status going into this one, so he should be back, which is helpful. I obviously agree with you. Like the quarterback, you've done the head coach / coordinator and a quarterback. Not exactly the boldest picks, but you're not wrong. Like I think Sam's under a lot more pressure in this game than usual. Normally we don't pick Sam just because it's so obvious, but I was actually thinking about it because he's got to be disciplined. You cannot give them extra possessions, but you also need to be aggressive. And like, again, you're walking a tightrope this week. Like that's just the nature of it. What we're really saying is the Dolphins are a good football team and the Commanders are a bad football team. And if you're going to win, like you're going to have to thread this needle. And can it be done? Absolutely. Teams do it all the time. I mean, shoot, the Giants did it to this team a couple weeks ago. There was like a very specific thing that they had to do, like check A, B, and C in this order. And they checked A, B, and C, and it wasn't even close. So it's possible, but it's also going to be very, very difficult. You mentioned a name that actually for me is my next guy.
Number 4.
Brian Robinson needs to play a large role in this game. They need to be efficient offensively. They're going to need to run the football. Is probably the best way to attack this Dolphins defense, in part because putting the ball in the air is risky with Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. And, we'll see if Javon Holland plays. He's questionable, but those guys running around, they don't have Jalen Phillips anymore, but they still have Bradley Chubb. Christian Wilkins is a monster inside. They've struggled so much in pass protection with interior players. And by the way, Tyler Larson is questionable in this game, so it might be back to Nick Gates trying to block Christian Wilkins, and yikes, bro, on that. But if they can get Robinson going, and obviously as a check down player and be that effective receiver out of the backfield, that's going to be a big way to keep this offense on schedule and moving. So B-Rob, definitely a major, major player for me.
Number 5.
I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin. We've been talking about how can this defense slow down or, limit the Dolphins. Quite frankly, I don't think we will, and I think our best defense is going to be with our offense. So I think Terry McLaurin, we're going to need a big game out of you. Last week against Dallas, you had a couple of drops. You had a chance to go out there and make a play over Gilly on a deep route. I think those are some of the kinds of plays that we need Terry to, complete. And there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not Terry's a top 10, top 15, top 20 receiver. I personally think he is. I talked to you earlier this week. He might just not be having the best of seasons, but I still think he's a very good player. And I think if the Commanders are going to have any type of chance, we're going to need a big offensive day. And I think it starts with our best player, Terry McLaurin.
I don't disagree with that. And to echo what I said, or what you said that I said, which is true, Terry's a good player who's having a rough year. By his standards, this has not been a good year. Some of that is on him. Some of that is on others. It is what it is. But if he can finish strong, and that'd be great, and give some confidence to this connection with him and Sam going in to next year. Last but not least,
Number 6.
Jamin Davis. Jamin is another guy that I think can be helped by the simplification of this defense, and they're going to need to make a play or two on defense, and he has been their best playmaker. They needed that play against Denver. He forces the fumble against Russ. They need a play against Atlanta. He gets the pick. Like, I know the reputation for Jamin is that he's not good, but that's just not true. He's a good football player. He gets put in some bad spots sometimes, and he loses sometimes. That is the NFL. Other guys get paid too, and especially, again, he's good. He's not great. He's not elite, but he has probably been their best playmaker on that side of the ball, and they are going to need to steal some possessions, need to make some plays, whether it's a sack, a batted ball, a pick, a forced fumble, whatever. Jamin Davis, if they want to have a chance of winning, needs to be all over the place, feel like he's all over the place on Sunday. That is our pick 6. We'll see what Logan thinks about that during the pregame show on Sunday. We're live at Tap Sports Bar, MGM National Harbor starting at 10 a.m. We're streaming live on YouTube, and we'll be, of course, on your radio, Team 980 and 106.7 The Fan for the Take Command pregame show. When we get back, we wrap this here edition of the Hoffman Show with real things real people said into real microphones. segment, the Hoffman Show, Team 980. Always live, free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. And this is how we end the show every week. Anthony, coming up on Monday, we have a 1st and 10. We'll have Ron Rivera's thoughts on the game, obviously. You have Logan and I's thoughts on Take Command. Michael Phillips will be with us on Monday. It's just a usual Monday show of greatness. And we got a Wizards game. It is weird, Wizards game tonight. Did we text Dave and tell him what was going on? He doesn't think we forgot about him, does he?
I hope he doesn't.
We can't have Dave Johnson think that we just straight up forgot about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, send him a text and let Dave know that we miss him. Yeah, but it is weird on a Wizards game day. But, again, Wizards basketball on 106.7 The Fan tonight. Maryland hoops here on the Team 980. Anything? You got another trip this weekend. You're doing some HBCU hoops down in Alabama. If you text me a couple names of restaurants, I'll let you know if I've been there before.
Okay.
Because I've taken a couple trips to Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Good times down there. Not really. It's fine. Mobile's fine. I've always told people Mobile is great for the Senior Bowl because the access, like as a reporter, was incredible. You sit there and get to watch practice like next to, you just go, saddle up next to a scout. Be like, hey, I'm Craig. Like, hey, I'm insert name here. Like, I know. That's why I'm sitting next to you. Mind if I sit down and watch a little practice with you? Nah, man. Everyone's super chill. It's great. And there's enough good food to last you a couple days, and then it's time to go.
I'm looking forward to it. I heard the seafood down there is pretty good.
That is correct.
That's
Definitely
I heard
correct.
great things about that, so I'll let you know.
Yeah. It's good food. It's actually kind of an interesting town, too. It's they claim to be the original home of Mardi Gras, and the Senior Bowl was always a couple of weeks before Mardi Gras, so there's like a Mobile version of like Mardi Gras.
Wow.
And it's not quite as elaborate, obviously, as the New Orleans one.
Yeah.
But you see like the setup starting to happen. It was always kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
You learn something every day.
I'm here to learn you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's time for Real Things.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
All right. Sometimes players have to lie to themselves to just get through a season. Yeah, we're trying to be competitive every week. Like, we think we can beat anybody when we line up on Sundays. And when you're on a team that's not very good, by the end of a game on Sunday, you're often reminded just how bad you are. Something that Jabril Peppers of the Patriots was fully aware of when he talked to Saquon Barkley post-game last Sunday.
The Giants defeat the Patriots 10-7.
Lucky we had.
That was, you're lucky, we're not very good.
Yeah. I think those kinds of conversations happen more often than not. He just happens to be mic'd up.
Yeah.
Off the record.
Yeah, no. Guys are not dumb.
Yeah.
They just play dumb in the media because, like, what do you think the discussion is in New England? It's like, oh, Jabril Peppers, does he want to even be here? He knows. Like, what do you want him to say?
Exactly.
They're ass. They stink. They're
They
terrible.
really
Booty. Let's see. Let's go with the actually, we'll say the Steph Curry one for a second. Christine Sinclair is the all-time leading goal scorer in the history of international soccer. And she is playing her final 2 matches for Canada this weekend. So, great Canadian, Ryan Reynolds, sent her a little message. Of course, Reynolds, also the co-owner of Wrexham FC, and there's a whole documentary. Many of you know about that. So a little message from one Canadian to another.
Oh God, you're making me watch a video. Are you filming me watch this?
All right, ready?
No. I love Wrexham.
It's Ryan Reynolds. I just want to wish you all the best, all the love, and all the luck in retirement. Well, it's not really retirement. In moving on in your career to Wrexham. It's huge for the town, for the club. I think that you are going to be probably the key difference maker going forward up there in North Wales. Anyway, I wanted to send you lots of love, and what I really wanted to do was thank you. I wanted to thank you for inspiring me, my kids, kids all over Canada and the world, young, old, middle-aged. You're incredible, and you deserve all the applause that hands could possibly give. Sending you tons of love.
Okay.
You're going to Wrexham.
Okay. I mean, for the right amount of money, I could go. No, that's like one of the best ones. Like,
we'll send it to you.
Yes, I need it.
It's yours.
I need it. And maybe his phone number.
Yeah. While we're at it, yeah.
In true Canadian fashion, she hates attention. Hates it. Hates it. So she's so awkward watching that, but she's like obviously super pumped because Ryan Reynolds made her a video. Courtesy of the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company.
No, that was pretty dope.
Yeah.
Do you think though she'll get his number?
I think Ryan Reynolds would be fine with Christine Sinclair having his number, just being like, "Hey, do you want to come teach my kids some soccer?"
Very nice.
And you know who else?
Canadians sticking together.
Yeah, you know who else would be fine with that? Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively, who'd be like, "Yes, you want to come and teach my kids some soccer?"
Oh, I didn't know he was married.
Yeah. Very famously married.
Yes.
Blake Lively. You've probably heard of her. Ooh, that was a big sneeze, Ant.
It was.
Congratulations on turning your microphone off.
Oh, I was not trying to get another fine.
No, you are way ahead in fine points, by the way.
I know.
You'd be farther ahead if Ben Standing wasn't a terrible referee. Do we have time to play this Steph Curry one? We have 45 seconds left in the show. All right, Steph, last night was a special night in Golden State. Explain to you why after we play the clip.
Most likely to cry during a movie is Clay. Most likely to forget a birthday is Clay. Most likely to stare at themselves in the mirror is probably Draymond. I don't even know why, I just think that's the answer. Most likely to have a reality show is probably me, just because I literally try to do everything, but I would much rather watch Clay's reality show. Most likely to spend the most amount of money shopping is probably me, because every time I do something, Draymond and Clay are asking where their gifts are.
Most likely to get yelled at by Steve Kerr.
Draymond.
DG23.
Yeah, without question. All right, that's our show. See you on Monday.
You can